Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's nice to have you here at this kind of virtual curriculum night. You're probably watching a few of these videos at the comfort of your own home, which is nice. Obviously, it would be nice to be able to meet with everyone in person and get to meet you all individually, but these are strange times and we are rolling with the punches. If you're watching this video, you're most likely an adult for one of the students in my 7th grade social studies class, which is Washington State history. I am Mr. Simmons, Taylor Simmons. You can call me Mr. Simmons or Taylor, whatever you're comfortable with. It's totally fine with me. I just wanted to take a second to recognize our reality right now, kind of the context of this school year. These are very strange times, to say the least. And I think that what these times demand the most is engagement and flexibility, especially in this school year. I know as a staff, we are putting a heavy emphasis on being able to adapt to the needs of the students and to kind of the parameters in which we are teaching this year, being mostly remote learning, at least at the moment. And I think as long as we are all flexible and able to adapt and to work together, we should experience a great amount of growth and development throughout this year. Obviously, these unprecedented times have been impacted by a global pandemic, protests socially and politically that are massive, historical. Currently, especially, kind of probably at the forefront of a lot of our minds is the smoke and the wildfires going on here in the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of tough for another reason not to be able to go outside. And of course, this is all happening in an election year. So there's just a lot going on. It can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And my hope as an educator is to be able to be a supporter of your students during this kind of unstable time. So you might ask yourself, who is teaching my students? Well, there are a number of teachers who are responsible for teaching your students. I am one of them, Taylor Simmons. As I said before, I use he, him pronouns. Just hopefully this slide can serve as a kind of quick, fun, easy introduction to who I am. I grew up on Whidbey Island for my entire childhood, all 18 years. So I'm not unfamiliar to the island life. I know what it's like, definitely. And I moved off the island to go to college. I went and got my bachelor's in history from Seattle Pacific University. I started going for mathematics, but then I quickly switched to history because I found that that was where my passion truly lied. And a week after I graduated with my bachelor's, I started a graduate program where I got my master's in teaching. And part of that program, I did a full year of student teaching at Edmonds Woodway High School, which I really enjoyed. I loved being able to create a community and build rapport with the students. That is by far the best part of this job. Very few teachers, I think, go into teaching for the lesson planning. I think it's much more about providing a support for students and getting to interact with students. That's why we do it. I took a couple years off from teaching after I completed my master's program to pursue other interests, specifically film. I spent that time just kind of pursuing that, doing a lot of writing, and now I am back to the teaching profession, and what a time I picked to come back to it. Some interests of mine, I really like to stay active, and one of the ways I've found to do that is climbing, specifically indoor bouldering. I find it to be very calming and almost meditative, and it's like a puzzle. It's like an active puzzle. It's super fun. I really enjoy it. And unfortunately, I can't do it right now because of the pandemic, so it's a little unsafe to be touching all the same handholds as other people, but I hope to get back to it soon. And of course, history and teaching are big passions of mine. I had history teachers that really kind of left a mark on me and it helped me develop as a person. And I really want to have that same impact for my students. So how to contact me. Email is by far the best way to contact me. You can email me at any time, and I usually will respond fairly quickly unless it is late at night or late on a weekend. It might take me a day or two to respond, but I should respond relatively quickly. You can also message me through Skyward or Schoology. Those both have kind of messaging features, and I should be able to get that information from those tools as well. So I quickly wanted to present kind of a breakdown of Schoology. I know it's very confusing and not ideal, but it is kind of a primary hub for learning this year and for information. I also recognize that different teachers will set up their Schoology in different ways, so I just wanted to be able to present you with a view of what mine looks like. One of the first things that you'll see is my Zoom information. Obviously, it's very important that students know where to go to get into these Zoom sessions. And so if you click on that, it will provide links for my first period Zoom, my second period Zoom, and my office hours. And if students click those links, they should be able to go into those Zoom sessions. And it also has the time, the days and the times those sessions and the office hours will be taking place. So that should help them know where to go and when as well. If we go back to the main page, I have some things in materials on this main page, some class expectations that are partially things that the students voted on and decided amongst themselves, some of my expectations and the school's expectations. My daily agenda is a Google Slides document that I share with the kids every day that is kind of our main hub for learning. Back to school message that I sent to you all, and then these folders for each week. Let's look at week one just as an example. So the first thing in these folders is the week at a glance document, and then you have other links which will be information, assignments, readings, assessments, things like that. But let's look at this week at a glance because it is something that we are using as a school, and you should hear other teachers talk about it. Now, these should look relatively the same class to class, but each teacher is going to have a slightly different take on them. And some of the most important things I want to point out is that the Zoom information is in here as well, and it's a clickable link, so it should be fairly easy to use. There should be an overview of materials, so if students need to download an app on their iPad before the school week, they should be able to see some instructions for that in here. Anticipated key dates and information, some learning targets, so kind of the primary learning goals for the students that week, and then an overview of our week. So what we're going to be doing in class, what I expect students to do before the next class, and there's also links in here. All the links that you'll find in the WAG will also be available in Schoology, but I just wanted to make them available in multiple places to make it as easy as possible. So that was just a brief overview of my Schoology. I hope it helps. If you have any questions about Schoology, feel free to reach out and I should be able to help you with that. Something that I wanted to present to y'all was something that I presented to our students just a couple class periods or class sessions ago. And that's just this short little explanation of what is history. And I had students come up with their own definition of history, and a lot of them were kind of in line with each other, which was nice to see. And I just wanted them to be thinking about, oh yeah, I hear this word, but what does it mean? And then I also wanted to provide them with my explanation. And I also told them that people's explanation of history is going to differ in a lot of ways, but that this was just my explanation, and it's okay if there's differs, but this is mine. History is the reconstruction of the past using primary and secondary sources. My belief is that history is not the past, it is our understanding of the past. And so what does this mean? It means history is imperfect, incomplete, and constantly developing. And I think that's really cool. History is a living, breathing thing, and we get to work with it. It's not this set in stone thing that will never change. We get to be a part of increasing our understanding, of bettering this discipline of history. It also means that it takes effort, skill, and knowledge to be a historian. And that's what I want your students to be. I want your students to be like these tiny historians that I can help them build these skills to help them understand history, to contribute to history, and to better our holistic understanding of the discipline. There are some tools that we need to reconstruct the past to better understand it. And those are primary sources, which are kind of like the building blocks, and secondary sources, which are like the buildings, the reconstruction, the final results. We also need some skills of the historian, and I provided some skills here. These are skills taken from kind of the AP curriculum, so it is a little advanced. But some skills that I really want to focus on this year are reading skills, specifically historical reading skills. And one of the ways that I do that is through this program called Reading Like a Historian, which is developed by the Stanford History Education Group. And it breaks down historical reading into 4 categories, which are sourcing, contextualization, corroboration, and close reading. We actually just introduced this in class, and we're focusing on sourcing first. And so if you want to talk to your students about this, they just did some work with sourcing and connecting sourcing to our class textbook. So if you're interested in it, ask them about it, and they should be able to tell you at least a little bit. I also presented to students these 3 roles of a historian, so the 3 roles that I want them to practice in this class. And those roles are as investigator, where we ask ourselves what actually took place and why. The role of psychologist, where we ask ourselves, what was it like? What was the human experience during this time or this event? And as philosopher, where we ask ourselves, what does it mean? What are the lessons that we can take away? How can we apply this to our human experience today? We are going to be breaking down our learning into units. So I just wanted to provide a brief overview. Excuse my cat. I just wanted to provide a brief overview of the units we'll be covering in this class. We're starting with Washington State geography, which we're going to start tomorrow. We'll be doing some digital mapping through Google Maps, which is going to be a very cool kind of new way for them to do some mapping, different than the traditional maybe pen and paper mapping that they may have experienced in the past. We'll be looking at kind of the natural environment and also human influence on the environment and kind of human interaction with the environment. Some more units we'll be looking at are Native American sovereignty, Washington state government, the fur trade, inclusion, exclusion, and cultural identity, the progressive era, Japanese incarceration, or you may know it as Japanese internment, but the term has changed. And finally, personal identity and Washington state, where we haven't decided exactly what it will look like as a department, but they will do a cumulative project connecting their personal identity to Washington state history in some way. Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on this virtual curriculum night experience. I am really excited for the opportunity to work with you and your students to help learn and grow and develop. And my main teaching philosophy is that teachers should be supporters and cheerleaders of students. And so that is what I want to be for your student. And any way that I can be that, any ideas you may have, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Also feel free to contact me at any point with questions or concerns. And really, any good news would also be accepted. If anything wonderful happens in the lives of your students that you would like to share with me, please send me an email. I would love to hear some wonderful things that are happening in the lives of my students outside of the classroom. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I look forward to any interactions we may have, and hopefully get to see each other at some point. Awesome. Thank you very much for watching.